Picture this. Your house has four people. You, your spouse, 2 kids. Electric bill every month, $150. Government announces new policy. Want reducing emissions? Must switch clean energy. Clean energy costs more. Bill jumps $300. Now you face choice. Turn off air conditioning summer or cut money for kids, after school programs. Emissions go down. Your quality life goes down too. Government calls it saving planet. You call it choosing between comfort and groceries. That's degrowth dilemma. Today, we're breaking down why cutting emissions means paying more, living less, and whether saving planet requires accepting poorer life. Now let's get into it. Is degrowth the only answer? Quick note, this info comes from multiple sources. If something's wrong, drop a comment. We make economics so simple that anyone with zero knowledge can understand. Global economy at crossroads, urgent fight against climate change clashing with economic growth ambitions. World never been more serious about climate change. More than 145 countries together account roughly 77% global greenhouse gas emissions, now set exploring net zero goals coming decades. Cutting pollution become global priority, not just preserving environment, public health, energy security, long-term economic stability. But there's problem. Quickest way cutting emissions, reduce activities that produce them, means using less coal gas power, steel cement, aviation shipping, fertilizer, petrochemicals, even parts industrial agriculture. Shrinking those sectors comes with cost. They're some largest employers' biggest sources exports in the world. Shrink them too quickly, not just reducing emissions, also cutting jobs, wage growth, pathways people use climbing the income ladder. That uncomfortable tension pulled degrowth once academic concept into mainstream climate discussions. Degrowth argues on planet with finite resources, countries should deliberately scale back resource-intensive production consumption. Theory? Smaller, slower, more sustainable economies, less waste, reduced emissions, tighter focus on well-being, instead endless GDP growth. Climate science become more urgent, idea gain momentum. Degrowth now shows up reports from Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, UN Environment Program, concept becoming mainstream. Books sold over 500,000 copies. Japan helped push degrowth into public conversation. While degrowth gained attention, trade-offs becoming increasingly evident, Europe cut emissions more than almost any region world. Down roughly 37% between 1990 and 2023. Economy almost tripled. But transition hasn't come without costs. Carbon pricing energy reforms pushed electricity prices higher, squeezed factories, contributed protests like France's Yellow Vest movement. Think electric bill going from $150 monthly to $300 monthly? Suddenly, heating home becomes budget choice. Japan shows you can run one of lowest emission economies among advanced industrial nations, still face decades-weak growth, deeper structural issues, rapidly aging population, low birth rates, persistent deflation, all happening in a world where nearly 700 million people still live extreme poverty, surviving less than $2.15 daily. For these people talk, degrowth sounds less like climate policy, more like threat. If rich countries stop growing, does that close door on development for everyone else? We're left with dilemma. No planet cannot handle business usual emissions. No rapid cuts will hit some workers' regions harder than others. No telling nearly billion people who never experience prosperity just accept slower growth, both tone deaf, maybe politically explosive. If cutting emissions unavoidable, which parts economy actually have to shrink? Which ones don't? How countries already living these trade-offs today? Any realistic way? Grow, decarbonize, same time, or some form degrowth inevitable? Zoom out. Look where global emissions actually come. From picture pretty simple. Most world's emissions don't come plastic bags. People forgetting recycle, come from unglamorous backbone modern life, stuff rarely think about. Energy, concrete, steel, fuel, food. Together, sectors account vast majority global emissions. Also, some biggest employers, largest exporters planet, heavy industry alone includes steel cement. Petrochemicals produces about 22% world CO2 emissions. Zoom out further, include entire building construction sector share rises roughly 37%. reach net zero, industries can't just make few minor improvements. Some need change, so dramatically parts will inevitably shrink. Take electricity. Goal fully decarbonized world has moved away coal gas toward renewables. On paper, sounds straightforward. Until, remember, many places fossil fuel plants actually economic anchors entire regions. When coal plant shuts down early, not only workers lose jobs, contractors lose work, local tax base shrinks, towns built around plant start hollowing out. Watch tension playing out across world real time. US coal-heavy states like West Virginia, Wyoming face steep job losses. Mines, plants scale down. India coal still puts food table, millions workers. South Africa, 80% electricity still comes coal. Rolling blackouts already warning sign how fragile system is. Places like these, shutting plants down too quickly risks destabilizing entire region. Energy sector hole still growing. Today employs around 76 million people. More than 5 million new jobs added since 2019. But growth doesn't land where coal plants closing. New energy jobs cluster around manufacturing hubs. Grid infrastructure, clean tech supply chains, often far from regions built around fossil fuels. Like telling coal miner in Wyoming, great news, new solar job available, it's in California. Different job, different place, different life. Even renewables look cheaper on paper, real world transition far from smooth. Steel cement account 14%. World's CO2s even tougher decarbonize. Problem unlike many sectors rely. Both massive heat inputs, chemical processes release CO2 no matter how efficient factory becomes. Turning limestone into cement clinker releases about 0.6 tons CO2 every ton cement produced. Put perspective, producing enough cement filling Olympic-sized swimming pool generates emissions roughly match annual footprint town about 700 people. Until cleaner technologies scale, not even close yet cutting emissions, those sectors often means producing less cement steel. Has concrete human consequences? World now uses about 4.2 billion tons cement per year. Cut that supply effects cascade. First, housing projects stall, roads, bridges get delayed. Before long, contractors laying people off jobs quietly disappear supply chains. Less developed countries, even bigger impact. Many still middle building basics. Housing, hospitals, power plants, roads. When materials become harder, get stalls. Infrastructure supposed unlock jobs. Incomes higher living standards. First place. Aviation shipping still no cheap, scalable, zero carbon fuels ready, replacing kerosene bunker fuel global volumes. Cutting emissions these sectors today requires things nobody wants. Flying less. Right now, world operates roughly 35 million commercial flights. Biggest emissions come long-haul routes tying economies together. Pull those back, reduce emissions, yes. Effects compound quickly. Some routes disappear altogether. Fewer connections. Flights remain, become more expensive. Shipping no different. More than 80% global trade moves by sea, powered largely heavy fuel oil, one dirtiest fuels world. Cleaner alternatives exist. Too expensive, not available at scale. Cutting shipping emissions today mostly means shipping less stuff. Raises prices not just luxury items. Essentials like food, medicine, building materials hits developing countries hardest. Rely maritime trade for basics. Higher costs, disrupted routes, hit food security, access medicine, economic stability directly. Then there's agriculture. On farm alone, emissions from livestock methane, fertilizer, applied soils make up almost 12% global greenhouse gases. Factor. Everything brings food field to plate. Entire agri-food system responsible roughly 1/3 global emissions. Problem cutting these emissions almost always makes food more expensive. However, do it. Using less fertilizer, raising fewer animals, changing how farms operate. Food costs rise. No government wants blamed making groceries unaffordable. True precision, agriculture, regenerative farming, methane reducing cattle feed, show promise reducing emissions. For now, still early development, unevenly deployed. Not yet capable delivering large-scale emissions cuts without higher costs. This core dilemma, short-term affordability, odds with long-term environmental stability. Already seen what looks like practice. Europe tighter carbon pricing helped cut emissions dramatically, down roughly 37% between 1990 and 2023, but transition came price. Higher carbon prices pushed up cost energy. Pressure landed hardest industries depend the cheap electricity staying competitive. Yes, Europe's economy still tripled during period. Headline number hides something important. Big part. Europe's emissions drop came shifting heavy industry abroad. EU still consumes huge amounts steel, cement, chemicals, just produces fewer of them at home. Those emissions didn't disappear, just outsourced countries like Turkey, India, China, where production often dirtier. Rich countries with diversified economies, some changes from reducing emissions manageable, shrinking coal sector, Denmark, UK absorbed by service industries, tech finance renewables. But middle-low income countries, completely different story. Globally, about 8.5% world's population still lives extreme poverty. Billions people rely, jobs vary, industries. Climate policy says need shrink. For them, any decline activity direct hit wages, food security, economic mobility. Yes, world needs decarbonize quickly, but mechanics doing that means some sectors will shrink least for a while. Many economies aren't ready what actually looks like. Some countries already living different versions, this dilemma. Experiences show how delicate balance between climate growth really is. Take Japan, country runs one most energy efficient economies developed world. Per capita emissions far lower than US, Canada, Australia. Japan also cut overall emissions lowest level since national tracking began 1990. Yet, even with large population, major industrial base, in other words, Japan already looks like kind, low-carbon society many countries say want become. Let's look other side scale, Japan's economy. Japan lived through 3 decades weak economic growth. Since mid-1990s, wages barely budged once adjust inflation on own slow grind. Paired fewer stable career paths, younger workers, pressure starts build. Population ages, pressure only compounds further. Fewer workers carrying more load. True, Japan's economic challenges nothing do with emissions profile. But Japan's trajectory shows running low emission, highly efficient economy doesn't automatically guarantee dynamism, rising wages, upward mobility. If Japan shows environmental success with economic stagnation, Costa Rica shows environmental success with economic opportunity. Instead, shrinking way to sustainability, Central American country built economy around it. 1980s, Costa Rica faced severe deforestation, environmental decline. Instead, doubling down extractive industries, reversed course. Restored forests now cover more than 50% country, up from around 21% 1980s. Turned environmental protection into backbone tourism economy, but didn't stop there. Also, shifted almost entirely renewable electricity. Over 98% energy coming hydropower, wind, geothermal resources, tech firms, service employers drawn political stability, clean energy infrastructure. While Costa Rica isn't rich country by Western standards, consistently produces higher life expectancy, stronger institutions than many countries its income level. Yes, with early investment, right strategy can grow, get greener, same time. But important Costa Rica, small country unique advantages, abundant hydropower, political stability, strong service economy. Not every nation has those conditions. Can't simply copy-paste Costa Rica's model onto India, Nigeria, Vietnam, expect same outcome. While Japan, Costa Rica sit opposite ends spectrum, most world sites somewhere between. Majority countries try and transition fast enough, avoid environmental disaster. Slowly enough, protect workers. But industries, economies rely on, brings us big question. Any path where world can get cleaner without getting poorer. First piece good news, not every part economy has shrink. Fact, some sectors grow enormously. Clean energy now, one fastest growing industries on Earth. Last year alone, world added record 585 gigawatts renewable power. More than 90% all new electricity capacity, Same time lithium-ion battery manufacturing crossed milestone unthinkable decade ago. Terawatt-hour scale? Together changes reshaping how energy produced, stored, used across entire economies. Money flowing into space reflects that. 2024, global investment clean energy hit $2.1 trillion, nearly doubling what flowed into fossil fuels. Means jobs, supply chains, industrial clusters forming around clean energy. Means parts economy really can expand even as emissions fall. But growth, one place, doesn't guarantee fairness everywhere. Countries with cheap capital-strong institutions, advanced manufacturing like US, Europe, China, South Korea, capture most upside. Meanwhile, countries rely legacy industries like steel, cement, fossil fuels. Face risk, losing jobs faster than new ones arrive. Pull off transition. Both fast fair countries need three things. First, large-scale retraining. Workers, shrinking industries need realistic pathways into rising ones. Need actual job placement industries, pay similar, better wages. Germany's Ruhr Valley managed to replace part coal steel employment through decades investment high-tech manufacturing services, but many regions haven't done that. Second thing, need targeted investment. Most successful transitions happen when governments concentrate clean energy spending specific places. Entire new industries can take root at once. When manufacturing infrastructure suppliers grow side by side, create entire local job ecosystems, makes far easier displaced workers retrain switch roles, stay put, instead starting over somewhere else. US Inflation Reduction Act, one example, poured hundreds billions into domestic clean energy manufacturing. Already triggered more than $110 billion announced private sector investment. China did something similar a decade earlier. As you can see, building solar battery industry now dominates global supply chains. But this kind of transition depends deep capital markets, strong institutions room, absorbing short-term pain. Many countries don't have. Brings us third requirement. Support for countries can't afford slowdowns. Low-income nations still need massive growth lift residents out poverty. Telling them slow down isn't realistic fair. If global system demands rapid decarbonization, global system must also help finance it through green infrastructure loans, technology transfers, climate finance commitments actually get delivered. Without that support, countries least responsible historical emissions become ones pay highest price. Brings us back, core dilemma, rapid transition, essential for planet, fair transition, essential political stability, productive innovative transition, essential economic opportunity, in end, real challenge, cutting emissions fast enough without breaking economies leaving whole regions behind. Here's question. Your electric bill doubles because government mandates clean energy. Your grocery bill goes up because farms cutting emissions. Your job pays same, but everything costs more. Government says you're saving planet. Do you keep voting for climate policies or vote for whoever promises bringing prices back down? Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any videos.